The Cottonwood Police Department's annual report for 2018. Evening, Chief.
Huh? Cheap. Right.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Steve Gesell. I'm the Cottonwood City Police Chief. Tonight, we would like to present our annual report, and for those citizens that aren't familiar with it, and our new council members, this is the second year that we've presented such a document. For the public's awareness, we do publish, and it is on our website, a 5-year strategic plan, which we just completed the second year of that 5-year plan. That plan is tied to your annual report that you see before you. For those council members that were here last year, the format has changed slightly, but it's similar. You do have a PowerPoint in your file, which is very rudimentary, and to respect your time, we felt we'd prefer to be nimble and just leave that title slide up, and we'll walk you through the report. Our presentation will not follow the order of your PowerPoint that you see there, just FYI. I'm good, thank you. It'll slow me down. I'm on a 12-step program to try to get these things down a little quicker. So.
I was a little surprised to see how much you had pared down the presentations.
Okay. So we'll see if I meet that objective, that personal objective. So certainly we want to provide you and the public plenty of information on what your police department has been up to for the last year. But we also, in American policing, there's never been a greater need for transparency, and this is a tool to reflective of that need to retain that level of transparency with the public that we serve, being the business that we're in. So what you will see, and again, I will urge the public, any public that's watching or will watch this, go to our website. It will be posted there tomorrow. That's our objective, to post it there tomorrow. You'll also find our strategic plan as well, which is always there, and which I'll remind everyone is a living document. It does change. And I'll move you quickly through this. I'm joined tonight by Commander Jody Makuch. So what I intend to do is just provide some overarching commentary on some of our programs and outputs, and then I'll turn it over to the commander to talk about crime trends in the city, which are always naturally of interest to our citizenry. The report itself, for those that are interested in the content, as far as transparency goes, we do include a use of force summary that demonstrates, kind of underscores the program and the process of the police department, and when our officers do find it necessary to use force in the course of their duties, there is a review process, and we do have the summary of those findings in our report. We touch on personnel investigations, and I will assure the public that no one polices their employees more than the police, or better than the police. We're very good at it, and personal accountability is a bedrock of American policing. Organizational workload outcomes are included in the report, and again, our strategic plan annual report, both initiatives that have been closed out and accomplished, and this year you'll find a difference from last year. We thought it was important that you also see initiatives that were deferred, and although in the report you don't have the reason, the majority of those are for funding. There's funding needs tied to a number of those, and some of the other ones may have been timing issues or other variables that precluded us from closing them out within the calendar year. Also within the report, I'll use the time to stump for our Cottonwood Cares program and Safe Shopper, Safe Community programs, both highly successful partnerships with nonprofits and our business community in the Chamber of Commerce. If you want more information, go there. What you don't see in there is our alternative sentencing program, which is primarily driven by our fantastic city prosecutor's office. We are considering including those statistics for next year, provided that our city prosecutor is amenable to that, which we believe that he would be, as it's just a phenomenal program with outstanding outcomes that help divert people away from the criminal justice system for positive outcomes whenever possible. So there's a win-win for the community and the individual. One of our marquee programs is also explained in this book and also or in our document, and also can be found on our PD website, and that's our Neighborhood Officer Program, which has been up and running for a couple of years. We've divided the city into 9 neighborhoods, as what we call them, which are areas of responsibility for our officers to problem solve, and a direct connection for our citizens that own businesses and or live in those respective, what we call neighborhoods. They have a direct connection to the police department rather than picking up the phone and talking to someone that they will never see and getting the officers that are available at the time. So we could use your help and the public's help in furthering that program. So and we get tremendous positive feedback, I do personally, from the public on that program, but we're still working through ingraining it in our culture and also the communities, making them aware that this is available to them. Later this year, as it pertains to that program, we will be doing neighborhood officer walkabouts. So our officers assigned to these respective neighborhoods will actually get out of their cars and they will enjoy a fleeting positive moment of policing and contact our citizens in their respective neighborhoods and market the program and listen to feedback that they get. Also reflected in the book, I keep calling it a book, in our annual report, you can connect with the police department through our Facebook page. What's not included in there is we neglected to include the new, relatively new, the city app. There's a couple of tiles in there that connect you straight to the police department. And we'll also, there's the new Code Red emergency notification, which we're in partnership with Yavapai County Sheriff's Department, and would urge our citizens to go to this document and find out how they can sign up to receive emergency notifications, no spam, emergency notifications when needed. Very simple and easy to do. So on the programmatic side, continuing, our Victims' Rights Advocacy Program is now in its 2nd year. I feel the council members that have been in place for that time are aware that this is it's federal pass-through money, completely grant funded, and we expect to hold that grant for the next 1.5 years. And I'll use this moment to underscore the success that's already been demonstrated by this program. That calendar year, 2018, we've served 290 citizens that have been victimized in our city. And our level of service is significantly higher than it was before as far as paying deference to victims, and rather than focusing almost exclusively on suspects, which is historically what the police are, and we continue to be very good at that, but we're getting better at addressing and helping our victims. With that program, additionally, we're about to pick up a highly qualified volunteer to bolster our effectiveness in that program. But I will tell you, 1.5 years, we may or may not get that grant funding renewed. And if we don't, you will see your police chief strongly advocating to place that at the highest priority so we can continue providing the level of service that we do to people victimized in our city. You'll also see in the report an annual use of force summary. We had 16,500, give or take a few, what we call incidents or contacts. Can also be called calls for service. Of those incidents, we had 1,034 arrests compared to 959 the previous year, so we're up a little bit on arrests. 21 in 2018, 21 out of 16,500 contacts involved some level of force. So that's an affirmation that our officers are very well trained. I get comments routinely on their ability to exercise the gift of gab and avoid use of force whenever possible. Unfortunately, we're in a business where sometimes that can't be avoided. Our phenomenal communication center, both in the facility and as far as our talented staff that handles both our police and fire department, but also a number of other public safety subscribers, virtually all of them being the large fire districts in the Verde Valley. Handled 24,000 911 calls last year. 16, like I mentioned, 16,500 law enforcement calls, which is just under about 2,000 more calls than 2017. So our calls for service have gone up. For a smaller agency, that's pretty significant, around 2,000 calls. They have also handled 11,000 medical, 173 rescues, around 1,300 fires, 743 collisions, 2,100 public assists. And a little known factoid, at least at this point, they process burn permits, and they handled 7,190 burn permit activations, which is, most of those numbers are on par with 2017, with the exception of calls for service. Those have gone for law enforcement. Our comm center continuing became only the 10th center in Arizona to national, and 295th in the nation to receive a certification from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, dubbed Missing Kids Readiness Program member, which requires all personnel to complete a specialized training course, policy evaluation, and managerial training, putting us in obviously a very elite percentage across the nation. As far as the strategic plan goes, again, there's a direct tie here, or we have 5 overarching strategic directives. Number 1 will always be a strategic directive, and it should be for any police department, and that's what is our mission. Our mission is to reduce crime. Number 2 is promote organizational excellence. Number 3 is strengthen relationships. Number 4 is enhance traffic safety. Number 5, enhance technology solutions. Number 6, enhance infrastructure. This last year, we completed 39 of these initiatives. When I was before you last year, we completed, I want to say it was 70. It was far more than that, but that included about a year and a half of startup, where we had a whole bunch of accomplishments on the front end. So now you'll see that kind of slow down, and you will not see the number that you had last year. It'll be more consistent with this number. Those initiatives included everything. I'm not going to go through them. They're in your packet, but they included everything from automating our policy manual, which is a legacy project for us, contemporary state-of-the-art service that allows us to follow policies that are overseen by practitioners that are experts in these fields, that reduce our liability exposure and ensure that we are following the most contemporary American policing policies in the country. From that to something as simple as posting our neighborhood officer map on our website. As far as deferrals, we've deferred 23 initiatives last year. 13 of those were tied to a lack of funding, and we obviously realize the city doesn't have an endless bank account, and there are certainly priorities throughout the city that tend to take precedence. That list is also included in your report. Council members have any questions for me before I bring up Commander Makuch? I'll come up afterwards if you think of anything, if you don't have anything now.
I do have one that kind of comes up here. And looking at these graphs, it seems like a lot of these subcategories of criminal offenses have gone up. I mean, is that a result? Did you think, is crime increasing, or are you guys just doing more enforcement?
If you could hang on to that question,
okay.
Commander Makuch will cover that, and we'll make sure we answer that question. Thank you.
Just curious. Thanks.
Any other questions from council for the chief?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. I'm Commander Jody Makuch and part of the Chief's 12th Step. And tonight I'll be going over some of the highlights from our annual report. Aggravated assaults generally remain the same on total number. However, we did see an increase in other weapon assaults as opposed to the decrease in the firearms and knives. And other weapons could be bats, they could be a beer bottle or something that someone uses or fashions uses as a weapon to assault someone else. Our aggravated assaults on police officers have shown a steady decrease over the last 3 years, and we believe that's likely because of the use of body-worn cameras and increased officer safety. Our thefts have steadily decreased, most importantly, shoplifting, and we likely, let me back up. Shoplifting has steadily decreased, and likely due to asset protection in Walmart. They're our #1 contributor to shoplifting cases in the city. So they've seen a decline in reports there as they've increased their asset protection, and they've instilled the people who check your receipts as you're walking out the door, which has become very helpful. Overall, reported thefts have increased. Although many go unreported, we believe that perhaps the neighborhood officer program has established a connection with some of the citizens where they felt more freely to contact the police department. A lot of times people won't report because they think, oh, it's never going to get solved, or the loss was somewhat insignificant to them, and they don't think that they should report it. Theft from a vehicle has declined. We would like to think that more of the public is securing their vehicles. A lot of the thefts that we see from motor vehicles are from unlocked cars, where in the past we'd seen a lot of forced break-in into vehicles, and sometimes those are categorized as a burglary as well. So sometimes you'll see our stats, like the theft might decrease from motor vehicle, but we might see an increase of burglary depending on how the officer categorizes that. So and some of that will change as the federal government mandates us to change from uniform crime reporting to national incident-based reporting system, which is more specific. So in the future, probably in 2 years from now, we'll have a lot better data sets to share with you as far as crime trends go. But for now, we'd like to think that the public is securing their vehicles, and we're happy about that. Burglary. So we've seen an increase in residential burglary reports. And burglary is a scary term. Many times people think of, the Hollywood burglar just lurking about in your neighborhood and breaking into someone that they don't know. Oftentimes what we've seen during investigation of burglary reports, it's often an acquaintance. It could be a utility worker or a landscaper or someone that's had some contact with you or your residence and is familiar with what you might have inside. So while those other burglaries do exist, primarily most of them are someone that's an acquaintance or a relative or a friend or someone that the victim knows. And also, just to define the statute for burglaring, is also entering or remaining unlawfully in a non-residential structure or fenced commercial yard or residential yard with the intent to commit theft or any felony therein. So they don't actually have to break into your residence. It could be your storage shed in the backyard, or it could be ornaments from your front yard if it's fenced. Moving on to frauds, we've seen an increase in fraud, a marked rise in phishing and scams, primarily through telephone and email. And a lot of these originate in other countries. The internet has made that easy for people to ghost calls, and I've had people call me back and say, you just tried to call me, and it wasn't actually me. It was just someone using my number through some app or something to try to victimize somebody. So if you believe that you've been a victim of fraud, we'd like to hear from you. Contact the Cottonwood Police Department. If it's a local crime, we think that there are leads locally, then we'll investigate it. If we think it's international, then we're going to refer you to the Arizona Attorney General's office. And you can also file a claim with them or a report online at www.ag.gov. Moving on to DUIs, we had a significant increase in DUI investigations, which is likely the result of an influx of new officers assigned to our night shift. They're ambitiously enforcing our Arizona traffic laws, and oftentimes that segues into other criminal investigations, such as DUI and drugs. Our drug violations have seen an increase, with a noticeable increase in marijuana and methamphetamine cases. Nationwide, methamphetamine is at an all-time high, as reported by the DA. It's become cheaper and more potent as it crosses the Mexican border into the U.S., and they're mass producing it in super labs and distributing it through existing heroin and cocaine networks. So we've obviously made it difficult for them to purchase the prescription medicine or the over-the-counter medicines locally, so now they're developing it in super labs, and they're making it cheaper, and they're making it better and stronger. So while many crimes go unreported, we want to instill a see something and say something culture in Cottonwood. Please call if you think you need us. Overall, Cottonwood is a safe city, and we enjoy a supportive community, city, and other stakeholder organizations. One of the other highlights that I'd like to talk about is our volunteers. We have Citizens on Patrol volunteers, and we have 10 of them currently. And in this last year, they donated 1,417 hours on patrol and assisting the police department with a variety of incidents and public events. They're certainly a valuable asset to the police department and the community. We also have a criminal investigations department volunteer who primarily helps the CIU. He donated 1,144 hours to a variety of special investigations and department initiatives, to include his Citizens on Patrol, a very good asset. And always, the department is looking for volunteers. If anyone is interested, they can contact Sergeant Makuch or myself, and we can share the details with them. To conclude, this concludes our presentation. Does the mayor or council have any questions for myself or the chief?
Any questions?
I think you've answered them. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Thanks for your hard work.